Kia ora, Year 13. This video is focusing on the dystopian genre and how The Handmaid's Tale fits within that. So you'll know a bit about the dystopian genre already, especially if you have read or watched the Hunger Games or trilogies such as the Divergent series. And obviously there are lots of films and TV shows that are dystopian in nature as well. So have a think about what you remember from those, because the aspects are often very similar. Margaret Atwood talks about The Handmaid's Tale as fitting within the speculative fiction genre, which is a subgenre or overlapping genre with dystopian fiction. Speculative fiction is focused on this idea of unlimited possibilities and usually starts with a what if question, and it speculates to the greatest extent of that what if question. So the what if question could be what if monkeys could talk, or what if infertility meant that the human race could not repopulate itself. If you want to know more about this genre, this slideshow is linked here, and you'll be able to if you just click on any of those links, you'll be able to watch a video that will tell you a bit more about speculative fiction. All right, so dystopian literature is a very well-known genre, and you've probably heard of 1984 by George Orwell, which is probably one of the most famous dystopian novels. And one of the quotes from that novel, "If you want a picture of the future, imagine a boot stamping on a human face forever," kind of sums up what dystopian literature is all about. There is a video linked to the study guide called How to Recognize a Dystopia, a TED talk, or video actually, and I suggest that you watch it if you still have questions about what a dystopia actually is. All right, so dystopian literature is a subgenre of science fiction. And as I said before, there are certain aspects that you will see are similar across the dystopian literature that you have already had access to. So what sort of things do you expect to find? Usually it's futuristic. Usually there is some sort of oppression. The future doesn't seem very hopeful, etc. So let's have a look at each one of those aspects now, or the key aspects. So the first aspect that most dystopian societies share is that propaganda is used to control the citizens of the society. As you can see, there's an ad here, sponsor a tribute from the Hunger Games, and propaganda was a huge or a significant controlling factor in the Hunger Games and Panem. Information, independent thought and freedom are all restricted, and of course we see that in The Handmaid's Tale. A figurehead or concept is worshipped by the citizens of the society, so usually people aren't just left to their own devices or they can choose a religion. There is a state mandated figurehead or concept. Citizens are usually under constant surveillance, or there's the perception of constant surveillance, so that everyone feels like they're being watched at all times, or they could be reported at any time to the authorities. Usually information is manipulated so that people fear whatever is outside the society. So it could be the outside world, or it could be nature, especially if it's a very technologically advanced society. Citizens are dehumanized, so they live without being seen as individual humans. There are uniform expectations. You are discouraged from being an individual or having your own thoughts and opinions, and dissent is seen as bad and is usually punished very severely. Society is an illusion of a perfect utopian world. So usually for part of society, or part of the community, where they live and how they live is utopian to some extent. So it's better for some, but not better for all. All right, so why is dystopian literature important? Usually writers use their dystopian story or the dystopian genre as a vehicle to satire particular aspects of our society today. And they often serve as warnings for particular modern trends. And in The Handmaid's Tale, we could say that patriarchal values are satirized, that, you know, the commanders see their role as controlling and making better the world of Gilead so that humanity continues. However, there are particular values that are made fun of or are exaggerated in the novel. So questions we need to ask when we're reading dystopian literature, and you know, looking at how it's relevant to us, is what commentaries on social justice exist within the novel that we're reading. All right, so what is the novel saying about social justice? Do we struggle with some of the issues relevant in the novel in our society today? So looking at parallels between what's happening in the novel and what is happening in our world today. And for The Handmaid's Tale, obviously looking at the world of the 1980s, which was when Margaret Atwood wrote the novel. And do you think society has the ability to evolve into a dystopia or possibly a utopia? And what is, you know, what is going to cause either of those states for us? Okay, so some of the links to the real world that you can see in The Handmaid's Tale are things like the power politics, right? Who can do what to whom? And unfortunately, in our world today, we see a lot of patriarchal power politics, usually related to controlling reproduction, or, for example, in America, just recently, the Equal Pay Bill has been retracted, so women and men no longer have to be paid the same amount of money to do the same job. The dangers of totalitarianism and religious fundamentalism. So this idea that one group of people has the right answer and has rules that everyone else has to follow. And of course, religious fundamentalism, again, is about controlling people through making sure that there is one religion that everyone must follow and no one can make their own choices. And the danger of complacency. So this idea that if we see that something is going wrong, we should be doing something about it, not just sitting back and waiting for someone else to step up. This quote from Margaret Atwood is really apt here. She did deliberately make sure that nothing in The Handmaid's Tale was made up. It all had historical precedence. The handmaids' uniforms, public executions, religious wars, and propaganda and censorship, again, are all aspects of our world that can be seen in the novel. Resistance movements, so as soon as you start controlling people, resistance does begin. There's an underground railroad, so a group that is moving people out of Gilead into safe places. In the novel, it's mainly Canada. This idea of re-education, and we've seen that throughout history and even today, where people who think differently to the majority are re-educated to think the same way or sent to re-education camps. And at the moment, Amnesty International is looking at these re-education camps or concentration camps that are in northern China for the Uyghur people. And this idea of testifying, so telling on other people to take attention away perhaps from yourself. We have enforced religious conversion in The Handmaid's Tale in Gilead. So, you know, there is one religion. You can't be Catholic, you can't be Jewish, you can't be Quaker. You must follow the religion of the commanders. There's surveillance and spying. Offred often talks about the eyes that are in the households or out in the street who are the ones who report to the government any people who are not following the rules. There is enforced attendance at certain rituals and ceremonies, such as the birthing ceremony, the pravaganza, the salvagings, etc. And of course, rewriting the past while they're watching TV at one stage in the novel, just before the ceremony. The first time that Offred tells us about the ceremony, she talks about them watching the news on TV, but also saying that she doesn't know if it's true or not. All right, so in The Handmaid's Tale, the goals of the government or the regime are patriarchal and religious values. Men are in control, as is religion and God, and they have done that through the control of reproduction. They use methods such as force, spying, having secret police, and of course having women controlling women. So people like the aunts being given the job of controlling the handmaids. And one of the key themes, obviously, is freedom and the value that we must place on it, and what happens when that freedom is taken away from us.